As a parent, you have a vision of what your life will be like. Dreams you want, children running around in your yard, playing, laughing, the hugs, the love, the memories that you're going to create together. Such was the same for my husband and I. We were newly married. We were living in our home in the suburbs with our healthy, beautiful one-year-old daughter and a son on the way. It was our dream, until it wasn't. On September 19th, 2019, that was the day that our lives were flipped upside down and changed forever. The day all of our hopes disappeared in one instant. The day that would define the rest of our days of our lives. On this day, or diagnosis day, or D-Day, as they refer to it, we learned that our brand new baby boy had an extremely rare brain disease, FOXG1. Eli Gabriel Reich was born on April 26, 2019. It was a rainy day, and I only thought that meant good luck. After a relatively normal pregnancy, we were so excited to meet our boy, as you can imagine, especially my husband, who dreamed for a son, someone to share his love of sports, tradition, to be his pal, as our daughter already thinks she's the next Madonna. When I found out it was a boy, I couldn't keep it from him for more than a minute. It was just too exciting, but things quickly changed. The first few months of Eli's life were filled with endless crying, sleepless days and nights, his inability to eat, to be consoled, to recognize us, to meet early milestones. I just knew things weren't right. I was in different doctor's offices with him every other day. We needed to know what was wrong with our baby boy. Things came to a head the weekend of July 4th, when I just showed up to the hospital holding him, begging for help. Many more follow-ups later, we ended up back in the hospital on the night of Scott's birthday for an emergency MRI for our 3-month-old. From there, genetic testing, and finally D-Day. Eli had FOXG1 syndrome, an extremely rare genetic brain disease, aka the worst possible outcome that we could face. At the time, he was number 700 of patients, almost all children, with this awful, debilitating, life-shattering disease. I will always remember the geneticist looking at us and saying, "I'm sorry, there's no hope, there's no cure, there's no treatment. I've never heard of this before. Go home and love him." We screamed and cried. Sorry. I can't help but get emotional with it. We melted to the floor of her office. Dreams were shattered. He would never walk, he would never talk, sit up, feed himself, play with his sister, do anything independently. He would face awful reflux, life-threatening seizures, trouble swallowing, endless tears, eye surgery to fix his constant eye crossing, adenoid surgery to help him be able to breathe outside, and so on. On top of that, countless therapy appointments, PT, OT, speech in our home all day, every day, trips to intensive therapy centers, trips to the hospitals all the time. The list goes on. And still, my boy would have no chance at a real life. As we were told, it was simply bad luck. It wasn't possible, no way. It couldn't be the end for the two of us. How long will he live? We didn't know. How will his sister cope? How will we navigate life in a wheelchair? How will we adequately feed him, sustain him, keep him going? And most importantly, how will he know he's so loved by us? Immediately after we received the diagnosis, Scott and I vowed that we would take action.
Quick handoff there. I actually made the mistake at our wedding of being second giving the vows, and I've repeated it here. She's better than I am, but I'll give a little bit of a continuation of the story here. When we got Eli's diagnosis, we knew two things. First, our lives would be changed forever. And second, despite getting knocked down, we were going to get back up and fight. Now, I have to say that before Eli's diagnosis, and I'm even somewhat embarrassed to say this, I knew literally nothing about rare diseases beyond the fact that they existed and affected other people, not me. I'm embarrassed to say I had no idea how many rare diseases there are, how much suffering goes on, or the limited hope that attaches to most of these diagnoses because their rarity makes them commercially unappealing. But this is exactly where Ilissa and I found ourselves in September 2019 when we sat in a doctor's office and had our world turned upside down, feeling helpless and alone. And perhaps worse, we felt hopeless. Like most of the other 10,000 plus rare diseases impacting some 400 million people globally, not only was there no treatment available, but research was very limited. And yet in that moment of intense grief, and crisis, we knew something else. Yes, we were knocked down, but we were going to show the world what we were made of. We had a mission. And Believe in a Cure was born. So first I'm going to show you a quick shot of our family. We've got 3 kids now. Our daughter, Emmy, who is in kindergarten, Eli, you've heard about, and Dylan, who basically saved our lives, I think is a fair way to put it. Now, within 2 weeks of our diagnosis, we were thinking about how we were going to proceed, how we were going to form an organization that was going to bring us closer to a day that we would find more tolerable, an opportunity to find something that would make Eli's life better and those of other children suffering from FOXG1 syndrome. And so we got to work. We started connecting with our friends and our family, and we proceeded to think about how we were going to understand the science and how we were going to build an organization to move forward. So as you can see, I have on the screen here something that explains what Eli has. He has what's called a frame shift mutation. Now, these letters are made up, they're just illustrative, but many of you know that there are 4 letters in the genetic code, A, C, G, and T. And all of our DNA is just various combinations of these letters. So an example of this original sequence, the sequence on top, demonstrates what perhaps a normal sequence would look like. And in Eli's case, if you see where the arrow is pointed, there is an extra letter that is inserted by accident, just an accident of nature. And as a consequence, the insertion of that letter throws off all letters thereafter. The reason that this condition is so severe, you might wonder, when there's such a small accident, one tiny letter and one tiny gene in the wrong place, is because the FOXG1 gene is a transcription factor, which means that it's responsible for controlling the actions of several hundred other genes. So when the FOXG1 gene, which encodes a protein, is not formed properly, even if the genetic code has just a single typo in it, it throws the whole central nervous system out of whack. The way I think of this, I like history, imagine Dwight Eisenhower, general on D-Day, sending the troops to storm the wrong beaches at Normandy. That's what's going on in Eli's brain. So how did we get moving? I can tell you we truly knew nothing about how to proceed. Neither of us had any background in science or medicine. I satisfied my entire college science requirement with Environmental Studies 100, a class quite literally about clouds. What we lacked in expertise, though, we made up for in hustle. And we knew that the first step forward needed to focus on one of the themes of your conference, making connections. With time as our enemy, the window of opportunity to intervene with the treatment gets smaller every day. And so we reached out to our network and started building a team. We asked friends to get involved, making intros for us. And before long, we had an advisory council that includes 2 former US senators, a former congressman, executives from major corporations, and a number of philanthropists. Soon, we also had a renowned scientific advisory board with leading academics, industry leaders, and biotech entrepreneurs helping us to develop a roadmap for our work. The hard part about seeking to pursue a treatment for a disease like this is that starting is difficult. You have to create energy where energy does not yet exist. But we developed a plan. We thought about how we would be able to craft a strategy that would focus on this monogenic condition and develop a treatment. And then we began attracting attention around the world, our story, for how quickly we were trying to move heaven and earth for our son and the roughly 800 other kids with this terrible disease. We were on the Today Show. We were featured in People magazine and a host of other publications around the world. Now, as many of you know, to develop a treatment for a disease takes many years. Often scientists seek to first understand the basic biology of a disease, what causes it, how it progresses, how it might be improved. Once this foundational knowledge is established, the therapeutic work begins. But because we do not have the luxury of time, we've had to pursue what I call the organized spaghetti approach. We have limited funds, and we must be strategic and very prudent with every decision we make. Every decision matters, every dollar matters. So we formulate educated hypotheses, we take informed shots on goal, and then we see what sticks to further inform our next experiments. Our work has focused by necessity on both basic biology and translational therapeutics at once. In the former, we've generated novel cell lines, rodent models, and more recently, even a mutant monkey model, which is quite rare in the rare disease community. And we have 3 preclinical programs, all showing promise. We have a lead repurposed compound, several antisense oligonucleotide, or ASO, candidates, and an AAV9 gene replacement therapy program, which was the very first project that we began just 2 weeks after Eli got his diagnosis. I'm going to share a quick slide with you showing some of our progress. If you look at the column on the left, these are 4 different regions of the brain where the FOXG1 protein is expressed. What you're looking at is a constellation. The bright neon green dots are fragments of FOXG1 protein, and in the first column, the 4 squares in the first column, that is what normal FOXG1 protein looks like in a mouse's brain. Normal. The middle column is the same 4 regions of the brain in a mouse that has FOXG1 syndrome. And how did we do that? We used CRISPR technology to literally edit a mutation into a mouse model to recapitulate the FOXG1 condition so we could better understand it. And that middle column, as you can see, has a lot less FOXG1 protein. Our gene therapy project at UMass Medical School, we've developed a number of novel vectors. And as you can see in the third column, this is a treated FOXG1 mouse brain with one of our vectors that restores expression of the FOXG1 protein. It's pretty, right? So what we're doing here, what I'm demonstrating, we're not declaring a victory lap. We're not in the clinic. We've got a ways to go. We've got to look at toxicity and dosing regimen and a number of other things. But the point that I'm seeking to highlight here is that science is not just theoretical. Science is real. Science is making an impact. Now, we did this, and we're not there yet. It's going to be a couple more years before we get to the clinic, and there's a lot of work that has to be done. But this is progress. This is something that happened because we hustled, because we made connections. And we know this work isn't easy. But to paraphrase President Kennedy's words when he spoke of landing a man on the moon, we choose to do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because these efforts serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because these challenges are ones we are willing to accept, ones we are unwilling to postpone, and ones which we intend to win. 50 years ago, the ideas of gene and cell therapy were pipe dreams. 50 years from now, they will be completely routine. We yearn to hear what Eli's voice sounds like. We dream of him running outside, chasing his siblings, or getting excited to enjoy an ice cream cone, or wanting to visit Disney World. Here we are in Orlando, in the shadow of Walt Disney's magical vision. Just yesterday, Ilissa and I took our 5-year-old daughter, Emmy, to the Magic Kingdom for the very first time. Her first ride, perhaps fittingly, was It's a Small World, whose lyrics, of course, will ring familiar to many. It's a world of laughter, a world of tears. It's a world of hope and a world of fears. There's so much that we share that it's time we're aware it's a small world after all. So with that, we invite you to become part of our journey. We invite you to visit our website, WeBelieveInACure.org. Again, that's WeBelieveInACure.org. Sign up for our newsletter. Share our story with friends and family. Follow us on Instagram. If you want to get involved, be in touch. As we make new connections here together, as we deepen our shared commitment to forging a better world where every second is precious and matters and every effort is meaningful, we have it in our power to tip the global balance a little more towards laughter and hope.